Here are our notes for section 4.3. And your notes actually don't say 4.3, but it does say case 1. So find where it says case 1, and that's where we're going to be starting. Today we are solving inequalities using multiplication and division. And it's good to know that to solve inequalities, you use the same steps as you use to solve equations. So let's look at case 1. How to solve an inequality. First of all, you make a teeter-totter, just like we do with equations. Second is our pinky test, find the variable. Third, you're going to multiply or divide to get the variable alone. And fourth, you're going to graph. So let's look at this example, which I believe is not on your notes. Here's my teeter-totter. Now I look at the x. Pinky test says to cover the x, find my x and say what's with it. There's a 5 with it, and it's being multiplied. Opposite of multiplication is division. So you're going to divide by 5 on both sides. So 5's cancel out, and then you're going to take 8.5 and divide it by 5, and you should get 1.7, and we have an x, but instead of an equal sign, I have a greater than sign in there. So now I need to go on my graph to 1.7, which is very close to 2. I'm going to have an open circle there, and it's greater than, which means I shade everything to the right. Those are your steps in case 1 of solving inequalities. So go ahead and work these two out, and then turn it back on and check your work. Okay, I should have worked these out now, so we'll first of all draw a teeter-totter. Now I'll find my variable, which is x. It's being divided by 5. Opposite of division is multiplication, so you should have multiplied. These 5's cancel out, leaving x on this side and negative 15 on this side. And I go ahead and bring down my sign. So I go to negative 15, which these numbers don't show well, so let's put negative 15 right here. Here's negative 14, negative 16. So here I'm going to have a closed circle because it's underlined, and x is less than, which is everything to the left. The next one, you should draw your teeter-totter. Here's your variable. You say it's being divided by 10. The opposite would be to multiply by 10. These cancel. You have an m here, and negative half of 10 is negative 5. And you bring down your sign. Now, this one is written backwards. We're used to having the variable on the left, so you would want to rewrite it by really just switching everything around. So I have m is greater than or equal to negative 5. Notice that my sign's switched because I want it to still be pointing at the negative 5. So I go to negative 5. I have a closed circle. Greater than means shade everything to the right. So those were two to look at and learn about this from. Try these two, and then turn it back, the video back on. Okay. You should have drawn your teeter-totter. Here's your variable. It's being multiplied. Opposite multiplication is division, so we will divide by 6. And you get x on the left, negative 3 on the right. Keep your sign. So we go to negative 3, open circle, x is greater than. Here we have another one. Find my variable. It's being multiplied by 4, so I will divide by 4. And 2/4 is the same as 1/2, 4.5. You're going to go to 0.5 or 1/2, which is between 0 and 1. You're going to have a closed circle. It says b is greater than that. So that's case 1. Pretty straightforward, just like we did with equations. Now case 2 introduces multiplying and dividing by a negative. When you multiply or divide each side of an inequality by a negative number, the direction of the inequality symbol must be reversed. In other words, you flip it in order for the inequality to remain true. Now, I've got two examples on here, and I have a typo on them. So it should have said less than or equal to 14 on both of these. So fix that on your notes. Now you draw your teeter-totter, and here I'm dividing by a negative 2. So since I divided by a negative, 14 divided by negative 2 is negative 7, this sign has got to be flipped. So I would flip it the other way. Now over here, I'm dividing by a positive 2. It doesn't matter that the 14 is negative. The only thing that matters is what's with the variable. So I'm dividing by a positive 2, so my sign would not switch. So that's the example of when you do flip it on the first one and you don't on the second. It all matters. It all depends on what number is with the variable. So looking at your notes, turn the page, there are several problems. We're going to work these out because they each have something unique on them. So if you'll look at the first one, go ahead and work these two out and then turn it back on and check. Okay, this first one, you should notice that you're going to need to divide by a negative 5. So I'm dividing by a negative. So since you divide by a negative, you need to change the sign from less than to greater than. So you should have gone to -7, open circle, greater than. The next one, we find your variable. It's being multiplied by -2, so we'll divide by a -2. I divided by a negative, so I should have some signs going off in my head remind me that I need to switch from greater than to less than, and this really comes out to be 4.5. Sorry, a positive 4.5, because a negative divided by negative is a positive. 4.5 is right between 4 and 5. Got an open circle. X is less than. Go ahead and try the next two. Turn it on when you're ready. Okay, this problem is very interesting. First of all, we find our variable. We want to get y all alone, so I'm going to multiply by a -2, because really it's being divided by negative. Keep the negative with the number. Multiply by a -2. These cancel. I multiply by negative, so I must switch my sign. And then this becomes -1. Now, what's happened now is my variable's on the right. I need to rewrite it on the left, so I rewrite the entire thing. Notice I've switched my sign again, so I got back to where I started in this case. So I'm at -1, it's going to be a closed circle, y is less than. Alright, this next one, I find my variable, it's being multiplied by 6/5, so I divide by 6/5. I did not divide by a negative, so I will not switch my sign. Over here I do have a negative, I divide and I get -10. And now this is written backwards. So I'd rewrite it, m is less than or equal to -10. Here's -10, closed circle, and less than. Okay, let's keep trying these. These are just ones we need to make sure that we're practicing. When you're done with these two, turn it back on. Okay, on this problem, because it's being multiplied by -2/5, you should have divided by -2/5. These cancel. Now I divided by a negative, which means I need to switch my sign. And -8 divided by -2/5 is a positive 20. 20 won't fit on here with the numbers I have, so let's say this is 18, this is 19, 20, 21. So here's 20, closed circle, greater than. Alright, next problem, you should have noticed that the x is being multiplied by 3, so you'll divide by a -3. Sorry, it's being multiplied by -3. So I divided by a negative, so I've got to switch my sign from greater than to less than, and this becomes a positive 1.5. Now I don't need to change it or rewrite anything because that's got the x on the left, so positive 1.5, open circle, everything to the left. Look at these last two and turn it back on when you're ready. Okay, on this one you should have divided by 3. So you get -0.5. We divide it by a positive, so we don't switch our sign. These cancel out to x. But it's not written in standard form, so rewrite it. X is greater than -0.5. So find -0.5, open circle, x is greater. Alright, this one has both things involved. So let's go here. We're going to divide by -0.7. This side becomes a 6. I divided by a negative, so I need to switch my sign. These cancel and I just have w. But that is written backwards, so let's rewrite it. W is greater than or equal to 6. So at 6 you should have a closed circle and everything to the right. So we have quickly practiced several different types of problems, so now you need to go ahead and get onto your homework. There should be a worksheet for that. It's on page 143 through 144. When you're done, you need to do homework quiz 4.3. Make sure you get your homework graded before you do your homework quiz.